Kenyan banks are moving into Ethiopia. This is the first big test of Addis Ababa's plan to open a once-closed banking market. If this works, capital competition and new technology follow. If it doesn't, the backbone of Ethiopia's economy takes a hit. Hi, I am Samia Mohammed and this is Analytica Today. For the first time in half a century, Ethiopia is letting foreign banks operate locally. New laws and directives landed this year, and Kenyan giants have already raised their hands. This is more than a policy update. It's a significant change with consequences that will shape Ethiopia's economy, its financial sovereignty, and its future place in Africa's banking landscape. In June, Ethiopia's parliament approved a law to let reputable foreign banks set up subsidiaries, branches, or buy equity in local banks, after decades of locals-only model. Follow on, directives from the National Bank of Ethiopia set ownership caps and licensing terms. The headline number are: a foreign strategic investor can own up to 30% directly with total foreign shareholding, and a local bank capped at 40%. For the first time, fully foreign-owned subsidiaries and branches can also apply for licenses. Why now? Ethiopia is in a border reform program backed by the IMF and the World Bank, aimed at fixing FX shortages, easing inflation, and attracting investment. Opening finance is a core plank. The IMF says the central bank is leading transformative reform tied to a multi-year program and debt restructuring. In plain terms, the state needs capital competition and better financial plumbing. But the IMF is not always the best partner for African economies. Critics point out that its prescriptions often come with heavy strings, forcing autocracy or liberalization that benefits creditors more than citizens. Still, Addis Ababa's reform push has created an opening too big for regional banks to ignore. With the door open, Kenyan lenders moved first. KCB Group has been in talks with regulators and has publicly signed Ethiopia's entry options, including acquisition or greenfield. Equity Group has now joined the queue with leadership visits and signals of intent to apply under the new regime. Expect others from Nairobi to follow. Ethiopia's 120 million plus market is the biggest prize in East Africa. But what are these banks stepping into, and how is Ethiopia's system different from Kenya's? Kenya's banking market is competitive, tech-driven, and deeply linked with mobile money. Players like KCB and Equity scaled across the region by cross-selling credit, payments, and SME services. Ethiopia, by contrast, built a protected system dominated by state-owned Commercial Bank of Ethiopia and dozens of private banks that grew fast on deposits but within a closed economy and tight forex controls. Opening now means fusing two models: Kenya's digital rails and risk pricing, with Ethiopia's large, underserved market that still queues for credit. The regulatory knows this will be a stress test. In recent briefings and local analysis, the message has been consistent: trust, prudence, and safety matter more than speed. If depositors, especially the diaspora, don't trust the system, money stays offshore or flows through informal channels. That's why licensing, governance, and consumer protection rules are front and center in the NBE's new directives. At the same time, Kenya's banks brings advantages Ethiopia wants: modern risk tools, regional trade experience, small and medium-sized enterprise lending playbooks, and cross-border payments expertise. These are essential for a country trying to boost exports, integrate with the AfCFTA, and finance industry. The opening is designed to import those capabilities without giving up control, hence the caps. Like everything in economics, opening Ethiopia's banking sector is a balancing act. The upside is clear. Foreign banks can bring capital, lower borrowing costs, and import digital banking tools that make payments faster and credit more accessible. For a country trying to finance industrial growth, boost exports, and connect with the African Continental Free Trade Area, these are big gains. But the risks are just as real. Ethiopia still faces chronic shortages of foreign exchange, and regulators are only beginning to build the capacity to manage an open market. If liberalization runs ahead of oversight, large foreign banks could crowd out smaller local lenders, destabilize deposits, and weaken trust. And in finance, trust is everything. This is why Ethiopia's cautious approach, caps on ownership, phase entry, strict licensing is not just bureaucracy, it's survival. The arrival of Kenyan Bank is only the first step. Giants from Europe, the Gulf, and Asia are watching. How Addis Ababa managed this shift will determine whether banking becomes the engine of growth or the weakling in an already fragile economy. For now, Ethiopia has opened the door. What comes through will depend on careful management, smart regulation, and ways that trust can be built. That's all for today. Until next time, I'm Samia Mohammed, and this is Analytica Today.